Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Far Above Rubies. Today, as we continue our walk through this series on miracles, we are talking about Jesus feeding the 5,000, and your reading challenge for today is going to be Matthew chapter 14, verses 13 through 21. We're going to read verses 16 and 17 together. But Jesus said, "That isn't necessary. You feed them." "But we have only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here," he said. The story here is that 5,000 men plus women plus children, so quite a lot more than 5,000, have been following Jesus around, hungry for more of his teaching, hungry to hear more wisdom from the lips of the Messiah. And it's getting late in the day. The disciples have some practicality about them, and they say, "Jesus, these people are hungry. Let's send them home and let them eat, and we'll pick up where we left off tomorrow." Then we come upon these couple of verses that we read here. Jesus said, No, we don't have to send them home. You feed them. You feed them. But they say, "We only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish." And Jesus says, "Bring them here." He then blesses, breaks, and multiplies the food. The people are fed, and then it says 12 baskets of leftovers are taken up. There were not 12 baskets to begin with, but there are 12 baskets of leftovers taken up. Jesus set the expectation here for his disciples. He says, you feed them. There's a situation, there's a need. You feed them. But the disciples, if they had taken Jesus at his word in this moment, if they had listened to Jesus and just started themselves breaking apart these 5 loaves and 2 fish and started passing them around, how far do you think they would have gotten? Was Jesus setting them up to fail? Did Jesus say you feed them and then want to sit back and laugh as they got through about 3 or 4 grown men maybe and ran out of food? Jesus wasn't setting them up to fail. He wanted them to bring their insufficient resources to him. He wanted them to say, "Okay, Lord, we're willing. We're willing to feed these people, but what we have will not do it. What we have on our own, what we possess in ourselves, what we hold in our hands is not enough. How do we feed them? We're willing. How do we feed them?" He wanted them to recognize that try as they may, what they had was not enough. Of our own doing, in our own resources, without him, we cannot be enough to reach the world around us. We cannot be enough sometimes in ministry to minister to the needs that sit in front of us. We cannot pour ourselves out enough to fix the brokenness, and what we possess, what we hold in our hands is not enough. Sometimes within our own lives, within our marriage, within our children, within our own hearts and our own minds, Jesus says, "You can handle this." And we say, "But Lord, what I have in my hands, what I possess within me, it is not enough." And Jesus just looks at us and says, "I know. Bring it to me first. Bring it to me first." It is okay to look at what you're holding in your hands or even your heart and say, "Lord, this will not do the job you have set before me. I know you've brought me to this place. I know you've brought me to this need, to this ministry, to this church, Lord, to this city, this town. God, I know you have brought me here, but what I possess is not enough to get the job done." And he will say, "Bring it to me first." And when we bring him what we have, when we offer to the Lord our finite resources, our finite abilities, when we bring to the Lord our limitations and place them in his hands, he will bless it and he will break it, but he will multiply it. And He will make it not just enough, He will make it more than enough to meet the need. When we bring it to Him first, when we don't try to pass out what we're holding in our hands, get to the end of it and say, Lord, I've got nothing left. What am I to do now? When we'll bring it to Him first, place our resources, our talents, our abilities in His hands first, He will always make it more than enough. More than enough. What the disciples held in their hands, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, would have barely fed the 12 of them if they had only had a couple of bites each. When they walked away from Him feeding, from the Lord feeding 5,000 men, plus women, plus children, they took up 12 baskets each, or a basket for each of them to have food. Not only did Jesus take care of those that were in need in front of them, but He made sure that they would be filled as well. We can run on empty until we drop, trying to do things on our own, trying to be enough on our own, looking at the needs of our family, looking at the needs of our spouse, of our children, of those we minister to, of those we mentor, of those that we teach Bible studies to, or Sunday school to, or just our friends or our co-workers, those we come in contact with. We can run ourselves ragged and burn the candle at both ends until we drop and we have nothing left to offer anyone. Or we can take what we have to start with, and we can put it in His hands first. And we can say, Lord, I know that breaking part, it won't be comfortable. It's going to hurt a little bit, God, because You need to make me into something greater than the sum of my parts. So Lord, I'm giving myself to You. I am trusting You with myself, my time, my talent, my resources. I'm trusting You to bless, to break, and to multiply, to minister to the needs in front of me. And let there be such overflow, O Lord, that I too have enough to be filled when the day is done. This story is not just about this story. This story is about so much more than just feeding hungry bellies. It was not just a miracle of turning a little into a lot. It wasn't just a miracle of helping the folks that were sitting on the ground listening to Jesus realize that He could do anything. It was a story about teaching the disciples that they needed Jesus, and that with Him, what they had would always be more than enough. If they let Him bless it, allow Him to break it, and watch as He multiplied it. Go and read Matthew chapter 14, verses 13 through 21. And I hope that you won't just keep this story to yourself today, but that you'll share it with somebody else. Tag them on the video, share the podcast with them, put it out there, and bless a friend today. Remind them that if they bring what they have to Jesus first, they will always be more than enough. If no one has told you lately, you are loved and you are cherished and you are valuable. You have beautiful and tremendous worth, my friend, and that worth is far above rubies. Thank you for tuning in today, and I will see you again soon. God bless you.